What's up, you beautiful people? It's Harrison here, coming to you from the beautiful Boulder, Colorado on this lovely, sunny Thursday afternoon. Today I'm going to be talking about the 7 stages of ego death. Now, what is ego death, you may be asking yourself, or maybe you're not asking yourself. I don't know, I can't read your mind. I believe in free thought on this channel. Ego death is the deconstruction of one's existential framework. The ego is a term used by Sigmund Freud to describe our sense of identity and our sense of self. If you've seen my videos on the Dark Night of the Soul, the Dark Night of the Soul is a small part of the greater experience of ego death. I'll link my video about the Dark Night of the Soul up here. The Dark Night of the Soul is one single part of this very deep, profound, enlightening experience known as ego death. Ego death has been a concept for millennia. Some people achieve ego death through transcendental meditation, prayer. Some people achieve ego death through the use of psychedelic medicines. Sometimes ego death just occurs randomly after you've experienced a rite of passage in your life or a life-changing disaster. But despite the fact that it's called ego death, it's not a bad thing at all. In fact, it's probably the most enlightening experience I've ever had in my life. So the first stage of ego death is the spiritual awakening. This is the initial awakening that you come to when you realize that there are certain areas in your life that you may have been ignoring. There are certain truths that you have blinded yourself to. This is a very sort of passive experience of ego death. You don't really notice when the spiritual awakening is happening, but these truths that you've been ignoring for so long slowly start falling into place a little too well, like a puzzle. This is when you begin asking yourself the initial questions of, what is my purpose? What is the essence of my being? What was I put on this earth to do? Things along those lines. The second stage of ego death is the Dark Night of the Soul, which I have discussed in my previous videos. This is easily the most distressing part of ego death. During this stage, you experience great despair. You grow very depressed. You're filled with a sense of dread and emptiness because of all of these truths that you've realized you've been blind to all this time. It's very distressing, but the good news is it only gets better from here. Stage 3 is exploration. This is when you begin to experiment with spiritual and theogenic practices such as meditation or prayer, philosophy. Ego death is not restricted to any single religion or lack thereof. It is very possible for an atheist or an agnostic person to experience an ego death. Exploration is when you begin experimenting with new practices that bring you into terms with your sense of self. Stage 4 is known as the glimpse of enlightenment. Stage 4 is also described using the Zen Buddhist word Satori, which means a brief glimpse of enlightenment. This brief glimpse of enlightenment comes very suddenly, but this brief glimpse serves as a guide to lead you through the next 3 stages of ego death. The brief glimpse of enlightenment shows us the truths that we've been ignoring and shines a harsh spotlight on aspects of ourselves that we've previously been blind to. It's not nearly as distressing as the dark night of the soul. In fact, it's much more enlightening. It's much, as the name suggests, it's much more peaceful, and it offers you guidance and certainty as to what your purpose on this earth is. Stage 5 is soul growth. This is when you really need to start taking matters into your own hands, and this is when you begin realizing that you have the control to pursue the enlightenment that you caught that brief glimpse of. Soul growth can take months or years. I personally would consider myself to still be in this stage because there are still aspects of ego death that I have still not yet processed. Ego death is an experience that takes a long time to fully process. It's a jarring experience. It is sometimes a very terrifying and distressing experience. It's a lot to process. Soul growth is when you begin cultivating yourself in order to gain a clearer glimpse of enlightenment than you first experienced. With each practice you begin engaging in order to achieve soul growth, whether it be in improving your diet, meditating, working out, yoga, things along those lines, you begin to realize that these practices bring you closer to that glimpse of enlightenment you were once introduced to. The surrendering. Stage 6 is called the surrendering. The surrendering is when you gain a lot more clarity into what you don't need in your life. You may begin to purge certain vices from your life, whether it be food, gambling, love, whatever it may be, social media. You may begin to purge these things from your life in order to gain more clarity and more awareness. This stage is a little bit melancholic in my opinion. I can't say that I'm fully done with it yet. Like I said, I would probably more accurately describe myself as being in stage 5, but I can definitely relate to this stage quite a bit. This stage is somewhat melancholic and mournful, as I said. You begin to realize that there are certain things in your life that no longer serve you, whether it be unhealthy food, social media, certain friends who may be bad influences on you, things along those lines. It's very sad and very mournful to come to terms with the fact that we need to cut these things out of our lives, but slowly but surely, as your soul begins to grow and heal, you will come to terms with the fact that you are growing much closer to enlightenment without these vices or distractions in your life. The 7th and final stage of ego death is the awareness and end. This is when you fully come to stability with yourself. The truth is within you at this point. The knowledge is within you at this point, and the enlightenment is within you at this point. This is a stage that I definitely have yet to experience. I have not experienced this stage yet. If you have, please drop a comment and let me know what this feels like, because I myself can admit that I still have yet to reach full awareness. There's still certain vices, certain trauma that come back to plague me every once in a while. There are certain distractions that continue to have a hold on me. I have definitely not yet experienced this stage. So I am not the most credible source when it comes to talking about this stage, but this stage is when you begin to realize that the power was within you all along. And there may have been distractions that blinded you from the truth that lies within you and the power that lies within you. But during the final stage, you gain complete awareness of this power. You gain full awareness of this power, as well as the things that may come in your way when you attempt to exert this power and begin to spread your positivity and your message and your own experience with ego death into the world, which is what I strive to do with this video. If you've experienced ego death, it's very likely that you feel a calling to tell everybody that you've ever hung out with about this wonderful experience that you've had, but it's so difficult to put your finger on. A lot of people don't understand. I don't even understand ego death fully myself. I think that is one of the more paradoxical or oxymoronic kind of aspects of the term ego death, because I've heard of people who, I've been around people who claim to experience ego death, yet it seems that their experience with ego death has made them more egotistical than ever. A lot of people will try to claim that because they experienced ego death, that they are the most enlightened person in the world, they are the Messiah, things along those lines. I never try to claim that. I will probably never claim that. I really hope not, at least. It's always good to humble yourself by knowing that you don't have all the answers. I definitely don't have all the answers, but slowly but surely I'm coming to peace with that, and that is one of the most beautiful things about ego death, is the admittance of what we don't know. Because the second you admit that you don't know everything is the instance when you begin to learn everything, and you begin opening yourself up to so much knowledge and abundance and enlightenment, and it's a very beautiful experience. I will continue to keep my heart open to the awareness and enlightenment that comes my way. And it's very important that I start by admitting that I'm not enlightened at all. There are many answers that I do not have. Ego-driven behavior is often characterized as someone claiming to know all the answers. And I don't blame people for wanting to have all the answers. People like to have stability in their lives. That's just human nature. Before you experience ego death, a lot of the time you have certain habits or certain mindsets that are fully based upon impressing others or pleasing others. This is ego-based behavior. I am no stranger to this. I spent so long just trying to impress the people around me. I wanted people to like me. I wanted people to think I was cool. I was a very lonely kid during school, growing up. I didn't talk much at all. I had a very chaotic home life, and I was very ashamed of that. And it made me feel very isolated, and it made me feel very scared and confused. And so I didn't talk to anybody because I had this core belief growing up that I was a horrible person, and to talk to anybody would just imbue my poison within them. It would just inject my poison within the blood of anyone I communicated with. I thought that I was terrible. I thought that I didn't deserve anything. And then that isolated me for many years. I also experienced the inverse of that as I began getting older, because I came to the awakening that, I was all alone. I was all alone. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't have anybody to hang out with. And so I spent, the following years just trying to get people to like me. That was part of why I liked, making YouTube videos so much, and kind of why I still do like making YouTube videos so much. I really just wanted people to like me. I wanted my family to be proud of me, but although it may seem like selfless behavior, this is all ego-based behavior. This is based on a preconceived notion of the self that we have all the answers. And one of the more enlightening parts of ego death is admitting to yourself that you have very few of the answers. I have very few of the answers, if not none. Ego death is a very distressing experience, like I said, especially during the dark night of the soul. Because you realize that the void inside of you has been left due to wasting all of your energy trying to impress other people or make them proud or, get people like you. And it can be a rude awakening, but once you begin coming to terms with it, it's one of the most beautiful and enlightening experiences you've ever had. It was definitely the most enlightening experience I've ever had. I would love to speak more in depth about my experience with ego death. Today, I just wanted to give a brief outline of the 7 stages of ego death, just to give you a background on what it is, what it looks like, how it feels, and offer the slightest modicum of guidance throughout this beautiful and enlightening experience. Like I said, I don't claim to have all the answers on what ego death is, but I feel a calling to let other people know what it is, to bring awareness to it. I know I'm not a qualified psychologist. I'm not a qualified spiritual leader. I just wanted to give my own personal, humble retelling of the 7 stages of ego death, and how I'm able to relate to these 7 stages. Although I'm able to admit that I haven't experienced all 7 stages in their entirety. Ego death is still a journey that I am embarking upon as we speak, and I figured I would take along you guys for the ride and hopefully give you some insight into how to incorporate this enlightening experience into your daily life. I really hope this video was helpful for you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.